apologies. This is actually match 1 of 2. Good contrails so we can see the enemy horde coming. I think this match, the only reason I'm cutting it or going from this part and not later, where I actually start to do a little bit of dogfighting, is again, possibly have a chance to come back and T-kit, open it up. They do have a lot of folks that climb, and I've got a really difficult time with indecisiveness, trying to figure out what to do with my plane here. And part of what I'm thinking about is, while there is that LA-7, and there are a lot of other opponents here, they're grouped pretty tightly, and I don't want to get myself into a situation I can't get out of. Right? So using the air spawn, I've got plenty of altitude here, and I'm just going to maybe start trying to force some of these folks low, seeing who's reacting. The LA-7 does cause me a bit of a problem here. As I start to push down towards the 109s, they are paying attention. They know enough to straighten out. They know enough to dive. This is actually some, like, really interesting bait here. So this 109G comes up just enough to try to get me to tail him, and he starts to dive away while the other two 109s maneuver around. And it's not that I don't trust my teammates, but, you know, been burned once or twice. That F8F, I think, is actually pretty solid. It ends up being a pretty solid player, but not able to know that right now. And my concern was trying to simultaneously fight, you know, 2 or 3 109s that seem to be coordinating with one another, or at least if they're not coordinating directly, they're paying attention to how each other's flying, and ending up trying to fight 3 109s with potentially an LA-7 above me. Not a lot of appeal for that idea. The other thing I think that's worth noting here, Yak 3s and LA-7s supposed to be low altitude fighters, up above 5,500 meters, and the LA-7 is still a threat. But on the way down now, just trying to observe and dump some speed. Sadly, I don't think the Spitfire is going to make it. Some of the 109s from earlier that are coordinating with one another. It's definitely a very different feel to the Lightning than a Mustang or a Thunderbolt. If I was in a Mustang, I would be doing 700 kph plus right now, and I would just send it. In the Lightning, that would, if it didn't rip my wings off, it would put me right into the ground. I'm happy this plane has an air brake. I end up using it a lot more than I would expect. Just to hit, because I didn't aim for something that rhymes with hit. But this is the meat of the video here. I do manage to get 3. I'm not sure if it might be these 3 actually. It might be those 2 109s, the 185. Who were from the beginning part of the match, and we're coordinating with one another. But thankfully, I start with enough of an energy advantage here that I can maintain it. And there's my F8F teammate that I called out as being a solid dude earlier, and he's creating that additional pressure. This is the diciest thing I do here, actually. I was able to get my guns on maybe a half second before he did. I would normally not take a head-on with the 185 in really anything, but I felt like I had an opportunity there, and I really didn't want to deal with the 3 of those teammates coordinating with one another, flying with one another. Again, the Lightning's a hard plane for me to fly. 2 of them is hard enough. Didn't like my odds against 3. I didn't think I could pull for that shot. The Lightning, in my opinion, is just a little bit of a fuss. It's sensitive to speed when you want to get the flaps out. So even though I should have been able to get at least one of them there, I know that I should have been able to get at least one of them there. I don't know if it was indecision, but or just bad flying, bad line. Maybe both. But at some point they'll come back, and look at how good them. It's better. I get lucky here. The G loses sight, kind of loses awareness. Having vertical targeting on actually gets rounds on him. Definitely some server latency issues there. And then the 109 that was working with him immediately pitches for me. Too late to save his buddy, but maybe able to pick me up in return. I'm just above, high and right, just having a hard time with the lead. I get one hit there, and the only decent thing I've got going on is he is just about out of energy. Now the 109's got great power generation, but again, there's my teammate pressuring him, keeping him relatively slow. And finally, I've got a position here that I think I can work from. He's low, he's slow. I eventually correct my aim, which again, just I would realize I was a little high, a little bit off his right wing, and then I was consistently behind him, consistently under leading. Sloppy shooting, I get it. Had to basically just hold the trigger down and hit the elevator to get the rounds into him. But there it is. I guess that's the end of one of two. So here we are in the second of two games that I'm going to grab. I think just a couple of clips on the P-38 on the off chance that maybe at some point I invite critique or I want to refer back to these. This is an aircraft that I really struggle with. I know a lot of people like it a lot. I know it's a good aircraft, but sadly, not something I'm particularly strong with. And yes, I did see the 335 coming in. I was hoping my climb rate would put me above him. It didn't. At least not far enough to avoid a head-on, which I'm not interested in taking. So I drag him this way a little bit. We continue to climb. The VB is tempting, but it looks like he's a way off and bomber chasing, so I decide to start turning back on this 335. It's actually not a very big energy difference here. So while the tuning on the P-38L here is good, the engines are strong past 6,000 meters, unfortunately the power-to-weight ratio just isn't that good. This is definitely an aircraft that you play for the air spawn. The flaps are, however, pretty decent. And really what I'm trying to do here is I'm just trying to get inside where the 335 can put his nose, because I don't want any part of those guns. And, not his first time playing the game, so he dives away. The 335 reminds me a little bit of the P-47, having flown both of them. Again, just taking a quick look at the VB, he's way out there. So, the P-38 doesn't handle dive speed the way a P-51 or P-47 does. So just sort of slowly working my way down, thinking about who might be an opportune target. I think on balance, the coordination between the opposing players here is actually pretty good. The Spitfire puts himself on the ground, which is nice. That's always a challenging aircraft to deal with when you have something that doesn't turn so well. Keeping an eye on the 335 in the background. And, it's the whole Luftwaffe down there. The engine sounds of these AI attackers tripped me out the whole time. This is not an especially long shot I'm about to make, but it's pretty solid. Definitely one of my better shots in game. And, you know, I have what I feel are a lot of legitimate complaints about the P-38, but the armament is not one of them. 500 rounds per gun is nice. 200 rounds of 20 millimeter, or 150, sorry, is nice. The armament is solid. It's not all pick on low tier folks. That's a D model 190 below me. Does a tremendous job of helicoptering in me. He goes nose up. He doesn't have the control left to actually get the nose on me. But I was impressed that he came up to, you know, a little bit within a kilometer and just sort of helicoptered there for a minute. And what I do see, whether they're just really aggressive or more experienced players, but what I see with some frequency from planes like 109s, 190s, Yaks that have decent power, is the desire to spike folks that are higher than them. So you saw the 109 kind of zoom climb to me, did it again, or he'll do it again later. They're very obviously mating for one another right now. They've got a little bit of distance between them. They're trying to pull me down towards one so that the other can maneuver on me. The AI planes in the background still driving me nuts. And this is the 190's turn. So he is turned. He's lower than me. And he's still able to pitch in here. But he realizes pretty quickly he won't be able to get the nose on and starts to dive away. Thankfully headed the opposite direction of the 109. So the fact that when he dove, he went away from and not towards the 109 allowed me to squeeze in there. And now if I remember rightly, the 109 is going to do the same thing again. He knows that I guess he just got an amazing plane, but look at this 109 just coming. Like, he turned around from 3 kilometers away, and he picked up enough speed that he's able to pitch straight in for this shot. Look how close he gets. He comes within 500 meters for having started much lower than me, and I can't imagine he was that much faster, but the 109 is just a very good aircraft, but of course he overcommitted there. He sent it all for that shot. And even I can hit that one. I missed the VB-10 going down. Thankfully, one of my teammates chimes in here in chat and says, no, I got the VB. You don't need to worry about him. So I hit the small airfield. Don't see anybody there. Hit the big airfield. It's the bring-in from earlier. I am curious to know what happened to the 335. I suppose I could always watch the replay again and figure it out. Because that guy seemed pretty heads up. He knew enough to climb. He knew enough to pursue. He knew enough to dive away. I think that would have been a potentially interesting fight. I think I'm 0 throttle with the air brake out here at this point. You'll be able to see when I pull the brake back in and start to pitch up, because it embarrassingly much like the 109, I've put the Lightning here into the ground more than once. He doesn't really look like he knows I'm here, which is weird. He's the last guy on his team, but he's really slow to get to the rear gunner. I'm glad that my shooting wasn't that bad the rest of the match, or I got any of those kills. But okay, so that's game 2 of 2. I played 4 or 5 matches in this thing tonight. Most of them were not good. I mean, they were wins,